Okay, we're back and we're just getting ready to wrap this thing, well, not really wrap it up, but at least button it up so we can drop it on the car. Steve did a masterful job assembling most of the head, but we're going to show you guys how this goes. First things first, you need a valve spring compressor. A bunch of different types of valve spring compressors out there. And I've had this one here for, I don't know, 30 years. It's all jacked up, and I had to weld the thing in here because I was doing the Hemis and it was spreading the... But anyway, I still use it, and he struggled through the handicaps of this archaic piece of machinery and mastered the task. So, if you guys aren't familiar how all of this works, all the parts that are here, valve spring, so we threw a new set of valve springs in this thing. This is the retainer, okay? So, valve, and this one is an intake valve, and you can see it has 2 locks, right, with 2 grooves. And you see an exhaust valve has 4 grooves, right? So, and this doesn't hold true for all engines, but it does hold true for this. So at any rate, you have the valve, which goes in the head, like so. Then you have the spring, you have the seal, okay? The seal goes just like that. Okay, so you hear about valve spring seals, there you go. Your spring goes over that, then the retainer goes over the spring. And you can kind of just rest it there like that. Now, here comes the tricky part. You grab the spring like that, bring this part down to the valve and compress it. So now you see the stem poking through. I don't think you can see the grooves in there. Doesn't matter. Yeah, Steve, you want to?
Here, let me have control of this.
And you need a pick or something to manipulate those?
Maybe. I kind of got a little thing going yesterday to where it worked out good.
Okay.
And it worked out good. And then once they're set, decompress, hope it's set, and you survived.
And there you go. Alright, so you knocked that last one in there, right? And then give this deck a good wipe, because the next step for this thing is on top of the block.
Roger
the
that.
block, come over here. Jamie, what do we got now? What are we doing right now?
We're going to set the distributor in.
Okay. Oh, before we do that, come. So you remember yesterday we made that whole big deal about dot to dot. When you put the cam in, it's going to be dot to dot. When we installed this, we had the camshaft dot and the crankshaft dot facing each other. Now, the next step, what that is when those 2 dots are together, that's top dead center, number 1 cylinder, exhaust stroke, okay, or split overlap. So when these 2 dots are together, it means that both the intake and the exhaust valves are open. So you're actually 180 degrees out from when the spark plug would fire. So before we do anything else, we've already done it with this, you want to rotate the crankshaft 360 degrees. When you rotate the crank 360 degrees, the cam will rotate 180 degrees. And as you can see now, our dot is at the top. Okay? So now when both dots are facing the top, now you can drop the distributor. The distributor will be, and you're going to drop it so that the rotor is facing the number 1 position. So on our Slant 6 over here, number 1 is right, where is number 1? Right here. Okay, the rotor is actually facing where the number 1 position would be on the cap. So we're going to drop it. Come. Is that somewhere? That's it.
Yeah, it's too far though.
Maybe it's too far. Is it? Where's the cap?
I think we got it now.
Let's see. No, you gotta go 1 tooth over. Okay, so here's our number 1 post, and here's our rotor. Okay, so now right now this thing is set to fire, and this relationship is super important with a flat tappet cam. Because if you're cranking this cam, if you can't get the car to start or run smoothly, the first couple of rotations, you're damaging the cam. Every rotation that this thing makes before it lights you're increasing your odds of wiping out the cam when it does start. So you want to make sure, like if you're going to pay attention to anything, right? Pay attention to this. You got to get this so that when you turn the key, the motor's going to go whap, 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 and run. You can't have all this bucking and backfiring and cranking. So make sure that everything is up to snuff. Dots, both dots facing the top, distributor dropped in, facing the number 1 post on the cap, okay? And we're in the range of timing where this thing should just, as soon as we hit the key, she should go. All right, so let's put the nut in that to secure that. Did I say nut? I meant bolt. Oh, here it is. Okay. The next thing to go on is the oil pump. All right. Now you don't have to lock that down, just leave it cute. Now as a rule, you don't use silicone on an oil pump gasket. There is special material. They're not like the thicker, thick paper. They're a thin paper gasket, and you're not supposed to put any type of sealant on it. That's it. Oh wait, before you do that, we got to prime this pump. Yeah, grab a quart of oil. When you go to put the pump in, there's 2 things you're going to do. Later on, when you're going to put the filter on it, you're going to fill the filter with oil so that this engine has an oil shot as soon as the thing starts running. And before you put the pump on the motor, you want to pour a little oil right there, that's good, okay, and give that a little bit of spin. And you can hear that suction there, right? So this way the pump is primed. As soon as this thing rotates, it'll start pulling oil up out of the pan. So go ahead, drop that on there. And while he's doing that, I'm going to put the fuel pump on. This is another place where rookies make tons of mistakes, right? Silicone. When you're going to put silicone, when you're going to seal with silicone on the gasket, right? Here's how you do this. Come over here. Squeeze a little out on your finger, just like that, okay? And give it a swipe, a nice even swipe, just like that, okay? Don't take the tube and squirt a big bead around or anything like that. A thin swipe on your finger, cover the whole surface, and that's all you need. And generally, I just put it on the one side. So, where are our fuel pump bolts?
They're in
There
the
should be
bag.
the baggie.
Okay. A lot of engines use special fuel pump bolts. They have the washer actually built into the bolt itself. And these don't. These are just regular. These were probably swapped out at some point because the original ones would have the washer actually built into the head of the bolt. You can always, if you've got a pile of bolts laying around, you got 300 of them, you can always, the fuel pump bolts will always jump right out at you. So when you go to put the fuel pump in, that lever there gets tilted to the bottom. Put it on a bit of an angle. Oops, I'm putting this thing upside down. Slant 6. Okay, that lever, right? And now remember, it's going to be spring loaded against the eccentric on the cam. So you can't seat the pump all the way down and then put the bolts in. Look, this is like the first time I've ever done this. I can't get it started. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. So we get a 9/16 and bring those down. And we can put our front cover back on here now. So, oil slinger. All this does as oil gets thrown off the chain and everything, it just deflects some of the oil away from the front seal. And again, with our silicone, we're just going to give it a swipe. Try not to get it in the holes. Okay. And that's it. That's as much silicone as you need on that thing. Okay. There you go, the gasket. Okay. And that's it for that. All right, go ahead, Steve. Throw that cover on. You got funky with the paint.
Yes, I did.
This guy likes to individual and personalize everything. He'll put his sticker on everything. He paints all these different colors and shades. He's a real artist. This is like, it's kind of like, it's like an art car project sort of thing, right?
Why have everything the same as everybody else, right?
Exactly. It's definitely funky. It's definitely funky. That's it. Get them all started. You always, whenever you're doing tins on an engine, right, you always put them all in place before you lock any of them down. So if you have to move it a little bit to get a bolt lined up, you know. And we get the front seal in there too. That happened when you weren't looking. YouTube tutorial on how to install the front seal. You get a 1/2 inch socket pin.
Make sure.
Now it's about to start looking like a real engine. So, you got any gas?
Yes.
The bottle's sitting out front in front of the car.
So when you put the head gasket on, this is a composite gasket, meaning that the original gaskets on these engines were just steel shims.
Right here on the floor, on the ground. Right there, you just walk by
And
it.
this is what's called a composite gasket. The center of it is stainless, you know, it's got a stainless firing here, and then it's got this paper material in on either side. So this is more modern gasket than the one that was originally on here. The downside to these is that they're slightly longer or slightly thicker than the original ones that are on the engine, so you have a slight drop in compression, but it's really not noticeable. Unless you're building a hot rod motor and you're looking for every last tiny bit of compression, these things will do you just fine. Okay. So you want to make sure that the deck surface is completely dry. No oils. No silicone, no filings, no nothing. And did you wipe down the head yet?
Yes. I didn't with gas though.
Did you wipe down with gas? Hey Jay, skip it under. You did a beautiful job on this one. This looks like you come right from the machine shop. Just saying. let
You wanna do this?
you young whippersnappers do the... Actually, these guys are older than you think. He's like 40, he's like 45. They look like kids, right?
Go ahead and set your end on.
Hold on.
There you go. There you go. You got the two dowels that sat down on the dowels.
Yep. Should we
Okay.
run it?
Now we cleaned up our head bolts, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Just so you know, I didn't paint this blue, but we're gonna leave it blue.
It matches the copper that you did there. All right, give those, now all of these bolts, these all hit the wire wheel before we're gonna put them on. And before we actually stick them in the engine, we're gonna hit them with a lubricant. Just, yeah. Okay. There you go. Now we never use an impact gun. When we're putting, it's okay to use an impact gun, taking head bolts out, but never use them, put it in. Terrible practice. A lot of guys will do it, they'll sneak up on them like that. Don't do it. I use this old school speed wrenches for that. You just stick a socket on there, get the socket for those. It's half-inch drive.
A half-inch.
No, it's bigger than a half inch.
No, the drive is half-inch.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, no.
Well, it looks like Steve's gonna beat us to the punch before we get a socket for this thing, so that's fine.
Got that finger action going on.
That is true manual dexterity. That'll come in handy on a SEMA build.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. I'm a single guy, lots of practice.
There you go. Still can't find a socket for that? What do I do, metric in there? Sometimes I work on metric stuff, believe it or not. Uncle Tony works on everything.
Here, I saved you one right here.
There we go. It's not a half-inch.
No.
No, it's
the
a
so-
half-inch
the-
drive.
The drive
No.
was half inch.
What's that socket?
That's for us to know and you to find out.
I'm gonna say 5/8. Nope, I was wrong. It's 3/8.
No.
Yep.
What'd you say?
I said don't worry about it. There.
All right. So now, okay, from the middle, okay, make them just cute, right? Right here, go ahead.
Okay.
All right, that's good. Now do that one. Okay, now do this one. Now this one. Okay, then come to this side. So you see what you're doing is you're tightening down the center of the head first, and you're working your way out. Okay, so after you do this, right, exactly. There you go. Okay. All right, Jamie, get the torque wrench ready. Oh, sorry.
Can't wait to get this back on the road. Seems like it's been longer than a month.
Okay, let me see how tight you got those. So, I mean, you can be anal retentive about this and actually torque them in these steps, but not that crucial. As long as you've got them even. Okay.
What's the torque spec on this?
Oh,
Still got that page saved?
Probably not.
offhand, I believe it's 75. He'll check that in the meantime, but you can bring them all down to 75.
Let's see.
So start in the center.
$65.
65.
Yes.
That's it.
Right here.
So while he's doing that, this is like watching paint dry, kind of. All right. We got our push rods all clean and ready to go.
Yeah.
All right.
Turned out nice, Jamie.
Thank you. Tried hard on those.
He's an expert push rod cleaner, if I've ever seen one.
I mean, these were kind of ugly at first,
They're amazing.
and I was worried about ordering new ones.
All right. Okay, give me a few of those. Okay. So we're just going to drop these things down in here. You want to make sure you actually get it in the lifter, not next to the lifter. And you could put a little dab of grease. Just give them a little touch. Not too much, because what's going to happen is when you go to set the lash, you don't want to have it having a fight against grease.
Gotcha.
You want to give it just a little surface lubrication to keep it from galling. All right, so then we got our rockers.
Got it.
Pay attention when you put rockers on, because there's always going to be one long bolt on these.
See, is it,
It's right here.
It's gonna go this
It goes-
way, and these are gonna flip around that way, correct?
So there's a way to do this. Hang on.
Okay.
Here. You want to get all of the rockers oriented the same way. Okay. Now here, give me the shift. Okay. So, just swing them down like that. Rotate the bolts. Whoops. And now
Let's
just
see why
push-
we're here.
Slick, right? Okay. And then we're going to run these things down just gentle. Right? Don't lock them down, just get them to where they're contacting the shaft. And then you're going to pull them down evenly. And as you pull them down, make sure that the push rods are all where they got to be. Because sometimes these, they'll move around a little bit, or you know. You get a socket for that?
Sorry.
The 9/16.
No.
You need to start from the center on these and work out.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. And the reason why you want to be gentle putting this down here is because some of the lifters are up and some of them are down, so the ones that are up are going to try to force the rocker up, so you've got to fight the spring.
You want to do just a little at a time, right?
Yeah. Roll the push rod, stay even. Whoops.
There you go.
Okay. All right, so our lash is way out on some of these, like this one right here. Far enough out that the push rod can almost pop out.
Right.
And the reason for that is because of the gasket, the thickness, the difference in thickness of the gasket.
So far down that we go with these.
That's it. You talked us through about 40. 40, 45 would be fine.
Sorry.
And that's pretty much it, guys. We're going to set the lash once it's in the engine, once it's dropped in the car. It's easier to spin that way. Well, not really easier to spin, but I guess we could set the lash now.
We could, I mean, you guys should know that already.
I usually work by
I do.
myself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I usually work by myself. So what I'll do is I'll put it together like this and then put it in the car and then
Right.
make all my adjustments once it's in the car.
Well, the first time I did it while the motor was running. Second time I
please.
did it was when you were like, no,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
do it like this.
Don't ever attempt, I don't know where that came from. You can adjust ball stud motors like Chevys with the engine running. Yes, they have to be adjusted with the engine running, okay? But when you've got a mechanical cam like this, you don't adjust them with the engine running. You put a feeler gauge in there like a gentleman, and you do one cylinder at a time. I have no idea where that thing. Could you see?
It was hell. I will admit, it was hell, but
I don't know
once
where
I got
that
it
came
done,
from.
there was
These ding dongs on the
achievement.
Slant 6 forums. And
That's
stuff
exactly
like that.
where I went.
Exactly.
Slant 6
exactly.
forms.
Please.
I won't say no names.
Why they have names?
Huh? Like the one that was like the one guy over and over. Slant 6, someone or another.
Oh, he's an ass clown.
Right.
Yeah.
You say 45?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are 45. Oh, also, you know, there's no damper bolt on these. It's threaded for a damper bolt, but for some reason, Chrysler decided that it didn't need to put a damper bolt on a Slant 6. So you just really, you tap these things down. I use a brass mallet on this. I don't have it here. I'll bring it with me tomorrow when we go to drop it in. All right, so that's it. Tomorrow we'll have this thing in the car, and we're going to try to light it off tomorrow night. So that's it. Yeah, good.
Awesome.
All right, see you tomorrow.